Oh, my feet are really covered here, but just not on Instagram, I guess. Oh, that's fine.
It's okay.
Good morning.
We are live. Good morning. We are live.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the show. We are so excited to be here today. My phone is doing something crazy. What is happening? I think all these people are going live right now. Katie's going live.
I'm getting
Behind
notified.
the sign. Yeah, my phone is vibrating like nuts. Everyone's volume is down. So we just wanted to jump on today. Some exciting news, but before we get into it, we are going to do an introduction. I am Sarah Gore, Jacqueline Menard,
Jacqueline Clement.
She's new here.
Jacqueline Clement, Jessica Menard. Perfect. And our lovely guest and friend, Kati Atkinson. So Katie is here today to dive into some things with us. We brought her on because she is a salesperson for Sheldon Creek, and we think that she's going to be a fantastic source of information to help us kind of walk through the process of buying a new home. But before we get into all of that, and this is a brand new build, before we get into all of that, we had exciting news today. So Bank of Canada has officially had our first rate drop of a quarter point.
Mm-hmm. Yes, finally.
So as you probably are all out there seeing these reports coming in, this is for your variable rates. We've finally seen a decrease after months and months of holds and increases. And I mean, the media has been all over this, so everyone knows that this has been a pain point for so many. So we kind of just wanted to dive into that a little bit today, just to kind of give our perspective, maybe hear back from you guys. What do you think it means? If you have any thoughts, questions, you know what to do, throw it into the comment section below. But think this is a good thing, bad thing? What are your projections?
We were talking about it earlier. Katie had a good point of what you thought.
Well, I was just saying, I think it will increase buyer confidence,
100%.
which is always a good thing for sellers.
Yeah.
And it is the first drop in 4 years.
Yeah. Has it been 4 years?
4 years since it's been a drop, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's why it's such a big one. Like, we were all literally sitting on the edge of our seats.
I don't even know if it was officially out and you were already like, it dropped.
Yes, because thank you to Nicole Andrews, who texted me immediately. Yes, when it happened, because I was literally trying to search it on Google.
Yeah.
And then it went bing. So very exciting news. As Sarah said, it doesn't affect fixed rates because they were already actually fairly decent, but variable.
So that is something that I think people need to recognize, though, and I keep harping on this one, but fixed rates have been coming down for some time. So a lot of new buyers coming into the market, even people that are already in it, like I always go fixed. I don't like the idea of variable because I want to know what my monthly payments are. So a lot of people have been seeing those decreases happening for some time. So we might not see a flood into the market, and it might not be like a COVID bubble again, fingers crossed, but buyer confidence, I think, is 100% going to be there. I think it's going to make people feel that we're going in the right direction again.
Yeah, just the positive sentiments against, instead of doom and gloom and everyone waiting, like, how much more worse is it going to get?
So for all of those people who thought that the Canadian housing market was going to crash and it was going to burn and everyone was going to get the most amazing deals, and mom and dad were like, hold out, don't go yet, because it's going to go back to $400,000 to buy that 3-acre property. It's not.
You better get in. I have said that, like, this increase, so they usually say it takes about 6 months for a rate change to really kind of take any effect on the market.
Yeah.
So get in now if you can, because I do feel prices are as low as they're probably going to go.
We're at the bottom for sure.
So Katie agrees.
Well, we were at that conference. You weren't there. So we went to a seminar a couple weeks ago, and they were saying that the rates are the house prices today. You will make money by next year is what they're predicting. Like, we are seeing the bottom, and this is coming from, who was that guy?
You're talking about the Odra?
Yeah.
Oh,
you were there.
Yeah, he was like a head advisor that advises all of the mortgage companies.
Yes, he's a Scotiabank.
Yeah, it was very good.
Yes. Yeah, very good. It was a great conversation. So I think there is a lot of positive news coming out from all different sources that we're headed back in the right direction. We're getting a flood of inventory coming in. We've had photographers saying that they're busy out the wazoo and just
my stager's been saying the same thing, that she's just back to back staging.
And I think that's what it's going to be. Is it might not be first time buyers getting in, although I do think now there might be a few more trying to get in. Again, that confidence, like we talked about, but so many people buying and selling at the same time, which is difficult to navigate.
Mhm.
But again, this is now giving them the confidence that, okay, it's probably a good time because I'm not going to overpay and I'm not going to
Yeah.
undersell.
Well, I think with that too, if you're getting more inventory, people feel like they can actually sell their house and there's a good chance that there's going to be something else out there available
Options.
for them to buy. You have options.
Unless you're unicorns.
Unless you're looking for unicorns, in which case you're probably waiting to list your house. But
Oh no, what?
Hold on.
Hold on,
Sorry.
one
we died on Instagram here, so
Oh,
just hang
no.
tight 1 second. Did Katie's go too?
No, Katie's is still going.
Thank
Mine
goodness for Katie's.
Yeah.
Mine seemed to stop because it was asking about. Oh, now it's frozen.
Oh, do you need mine?
Or I can do mine.
Whatever you want. Yeah, go for it.
So just while you guys are sitting there, any more conversations?
For YouTube? No. I mean, I think we've said what we need to say about rates. It's exciting. It's here. I'm just excited to see everything actually come to
Yeah, it'll
fruition.
be exciting to see just like what shape it takes over the next few months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm getting to the state of like, I love taking buyers out. I'm all for it, but
I'm not sure what happened.
They're not pulling the trigger as quickly as they used to because there's so many options.
It triggered like a wife.
And those properties of sale, right? Like waiting for their house to sell, which is definitely challenging in this market, especially up in my area.
Yeah, I think it's a tough one when buyers are looking at, it's a beauty pageant right now. They're looking at something nice, they're looking at something nice, they're looking at something nice, and then they're also wondering what's the next nice thing that's coming on the market. So
that's a good point.
it's creating hesitancy just in terms of like, well, yeah, we like all those, but what about what happens next week?
Right. Yeah, with so much inventory.
With
So
so much inventory. Yeah.
and I can't believe there's so much more coming. It's gonna be interesting. It's been an interesting spring. Like I think I've said that a lot, is that the last 5 years there has not been a normal real estate market.
Since I've had my license.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. It's all Sarah's fault.
You're welcome. It's been good though. Excited for spring?
I mean,
Official spring, summer?
summer is coming now, but the spring market has just been such a roller coaster that I don't really know. Like, we had an early bang and then it kind of fell off, and then we saw tons of inventory,
But do you
but the
think
buyers
that
aren't.
summer usually slows down? Do we think that it's going to slow down, or do you think it's going to keep going?
I think this is going to make it keep going.
I think so too.
I think so too, because I think we're at the, like, we always see the rush for people to get in before the school year starts, and I feel like that's usually in May, and we didn't see that really happen.
It feels like it's
that's
happening
gonna
now.
happen now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully things move quickly so people can still get that in.
But those rate change announcements, like knowing those dates are coming, does cause some hesitancy too. So if you're thinking about pulling the trigger, but you know, well, in 2 weeks there's going to be an announcement, that does cause people to sit
Yeah.
back a little bit.
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then it's usually that 2 weeks after that we start seeing some major changes.
We'll see.
Mhm.
Okay, well, let's dive into new builds. We are, like Sarah mentioned, we are live on location today at Sheldon Creek Homes development. It's 690 Towns. We're at the corner of Broadway, essentially, and the bypass. Cute little pocket. This is the first time we've been in to see the model home, and it is very, very refreshing. It's so bright and airy in here, and much larger than we expected it to be. So
I have to say, I was going to say, and then we got talking about something else, because that's what we do.
Mhm.
I can't hear the road at all.
yeah,
Like, driving by, you think like, oof, you are kind of close to Broadway,
Mhm.
but we're sitting right up against, and we'll show you guys
And I'm watching
after.
cars.
We're watching
Watching
cars
cars go
through
by.
this window, and I can't hear anything. So
no,
Yeah.
keep quiet.
We gotta
Often,
check
yeah,
them out.
often when we're on site for a model home shift for open houses through the week, people will say, well, what about the road noise? I'm like, yeah, this is it. Like, this is the road noise.
Yeah.
I feel like I have more in my house.
Well,
Oh yeah, the school.
Open your windows, you're done.
I'm so used to country living. I was at Sarah's the other day, and the bells kept going, and the kids are screaming. I'm like, what's
The best is when they forget to turn the bells off in the summer.
happening? Oh,
yeah.
there they go.
Or one night they were going off at like 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, that's fun. That's not fun.
Live
Well-
near school.
Yes. Well, if you're interested in getting started in shopping for a new construction home, we're hoping to kind of educate you today on what the process is. Searching for what developments exist. Before we came live today, we were trying to troubleshoot brainstorm some ideas of where you might search. But other than a general Google search or just being aware of like signage we were talking about, or tapping into the resources of a local realtor. Generally, they are kept informed if there's any new developments coming up, or they're on top of planning news and things in town, so they're a great resource.
Often our brokerage gets invited to like
New build, the first like launch parties and things like that. But also important to if you become aware of a development that you're interested in, doing a little bit of background research ahead of time as well. You can always log on to the Tarion website and double check whether the builder is registered with Tarion, and just if there's any history of claims or things like that to see if they're a reputable builder, and just by chit-chatting with people too. We'll talk about realtors and with Tarion some more detail later on. But just that's kind of a launch starting point, I guess, is research what developments, research the reputation of the builder, get familiar. Usually model homes on site with a salesperson like Kati that is accessible to answer all the questions and provide all the ins and outs of different phases and options and things like that. You guys often run open houses and things like that too.
Yeah, we're here 3 times a week, just so that people have an opportunity to come see the different models and see what the differences between those are, and so they can ask those questions, because buying new is quite a bit different than buying resale.
Yes.
A lot of agents even aren't super comfortable with it, and so they will send their purchasers to come have a conversation with us, which we welcome, and just to learn a little bit more about the process. And as you mentioned, talk about upgrades, talk about finishes and timelines and stuff like that.
Because it can be a little overwhelming for people sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Like the idea of being able to pick all your own finishes is awesome, and one of the big reasons why people go new. But once you start getting into it, it can be a lot. So you need someone that has an eye, that has history in picking these kind of things and what will go well together and work for your family.
Yeah, for Sheldon Creek, we do have a designer who works exclusively with us. And so what opportunity that presents for buyers is that they sit down with her and she'll show you samples of everything from grout, like there's a whole grout book, and to tiles and flooring and quartz. And she'll spend an afternoon with you, really helping you put it together, making sure the selections you're making work well for what you want. And then also there is always going to be some units here on Sheldon Creek's 690 site, we have them, but that are finished. So you can buy a finished, so you can look at them, you can see the way they work together, but sometimes there's an opportunity to buy something already completed as well if you don't want to do the finishes yourself.
That's great. Yeah.
So a good example of that would be like this location where it's already finished, you've already got your floors, all the colors are picked out. Staging is also gorgeous.
Yes.
Also Cheryl, I can't take that. Also our designer,
So they did a great job in here. So if you are looking to get into this neighborhood, when are you here? Like what days are
So we're always here Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Okay.
And that's everybody's welcome. Purchasing, curious agents, come by, we can talk, we can have a look around. I often leave the model home, which we are in right now, and take people through the other 2 models as well, just so they can see the different variants.
Okay.
I would say this layout is very different than the other layout. I went through
Very
the
different.
other side, which is only 3 bedrooms. And I would say that this main floor feels bigger. It's when we show you the tour after, the island and the kitchen is quite impressive. I really like the kitchen.
Even the garage, they're very well thought out.
Yes.
There are a few units left, and then a whole nother phase that's left to come out, right?
That's right. We have, I want to say 6 units left, 1 sold conditional. And then we have 1 phase left after that, which I would say is like the premium building.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if you've been looking at them, we were just looking at the chart with Kati before we came on. The final phase to come out is definitely premium in the sense of like they're much deeper lots. So if you like these but want more of a yard, those are the ones. So keep your eye on it.
And what was starting pricing again?
So we start around $799. We have 1 interior unit on the southern side of Broadway that's $799 right now. And then on the high end, they're $849 for an end unit in these models. So that's over 1,700 square feet, 4 bedrooms, and a nice open concept layout like this model.
No, we were saying how rare it is to find a 4-bedroom townhome. That's amazing. Yeah, great.
Awesome. So we did want to talk a bit about it, and you touched on it really quickly, is that a lot of people don't realize that some builders, majority of them, are open to you still having your own representation.
Of course.
So I think it just kind of depends on if you have an existing relationship with a realtor that you like, know, and trust, or if you don't. Because there are pros and cons, of course, with Sheldon Creek. I mean, you guys are hyper local. You know this area really well. So they're going to treat you right. But there is still sometimes, like, they still represent the builder.
Yep.
So there may be people who want their own representation just for that peace of mind. So a lot of them do cooperate. You just have to get your agent to call and find out. Or they can at least be present with you.
Absolutely.
That's entirely up to them.
And on our end, like, I do represent the builder, but when agents come through with their clients, like, I'm still doing everything I possibly can to make sure both parties feel comfortable and really know what's going on, because it's not the typical experience for agents either. So I really try to make sure it's something that I help them through too, on the back end, you know, like, make sure that everyone knows what's going on, what's next.
Right. So I'd say the biggest difference is, like, when you buy resale, we have standard forms that we use, but every builder has their own contract and their own schedules and clauses and things. Deposit structures are different. So every single building development that you go to, it's going to be different. And that's what Katie's referring to, is like, what's in there, the verbiage, then we might just not perfectly understand what it's trying to say, whereas they're very well versed in exactly what is happening. But either way, just make sure you guys are going through it in detail, because there is a lot that is very different, as Katie has pointed out.
Right, and I think it's also a good thing for people to be recognizing that when you're buying a new build. So right now, you guys already have you've broken ground, you have the actual units, you can walk into them, you can see them. If you're buying something that hasn't even broken ground, they've just started coming out and saying, hey, we're going to advertise that we're selling and you want to buy, and you are possibly looking at like a year, 2-3 year turnaround. What does that look like for you? What does the market look like? There's going to be changes. So that's something to consider as well when you're going to buy a new build.
Different just from the timeline of resale. You, generally speaking, you're moving within 2 months, 60, 90 days, but new construction could be a while out.
Does that work for you? But I guess with the deposit structure, that's also kind of nice if you're looking a little bit longer to have that, because typically your deposits are due at a longer time frame, which is nice if you're trying to get that money saved up.
A staggered deposit, which is nice. Like, you're doing a longer closing.
Exactly. I think the difference, though, that we'd have to also keep in mind, if you are going down that route of buying something that isn't ready yet, that is going to be a few years out, you are going to be buying at a different market and different interest rates. So our conversation at the beginning of the day, what you're looking to get pre-approved for today might be different than what it would be in 3 years. So that's just a consideration to keep in mind and stay on top of it as you go through that process.
There's also,
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, there's also things to consider when you're, like, again, here, to Sarah's point, is you're walking in, you can physically see them. You can see the lay of the land. They're all pretty flat, but there are a lot of developments where you might pick a premium lot, but you don't know what the grading is going to be like. So these are all just really important things that we do suggest you at least see the site. Maybe get your agent or the builder's agent to go with you and kind of explain, okay, well, approximately where it would be, because I know personally I've bought in a lot before and it was quite sloped in the backyard, and that's not what we were expecting. It's difficult to say far in advance what it's going to be like when you're looking on a flat piece of paper.
Even if you're looking at the layout of your home, like I was talking to a friend the other day that just built a house, and she was like, going from looking at a piece of paper to it actually being in real life, the actual layout is different than what she anticipated. So some people just can't wrap their head around that. But I actually saw this new thing, this technology that they have, and you go into like a giant room and they'll project the layout of the house onto the floor. Yeah, it's like, that is brilliant.
I thought you were going to say virtual reality.
Oh, that would be cool too. That would be,
that's coming. That's not far.
But I think that's, a lot of people do struggle with that, and a lot of people can't wrap their head around waiting 3 years to get something, not knowing what's going to happen, not knowing how the house is going to look. So if you're a person that can handle that, awesome. And if you can't, come here.
Definitely come here.
Or call us.
Or call them.
We all work together. So the deposit structures we already kind of talked about, but we were saying that it can be staggered. So generally speaking, you have, because some of these projects are 2 or 3 years out,
instead of having, 50,000 due right up front, it's generally like you might have 5% and then you'd have 5,000 due at signing, and then in 30 days, another 5,000, 60 days, 120. Every builder is different. But it's, again, a way to get into the market, especially for a first-time home buyer that maybe doesn't have 50 grand just sitting in a bank right away, but has the means to
Get there.
accumulate it, before closing.
How does yours work?
So because we have some units that are finished like this one and could be a 30-day closing, we are more flexible. So if somebody was to purchase unit 5 where we're sitting right now, they could just do I'm just gonna throw a number out there, like a $25,000 deposit and move in 30 days if that was desired. Whereas there's also the reserved building that we talked about, which isn't a year away from being done, but Sheldon Creek is also open to working with buyers. So if you were purchasing a unit in the reserved block, you could do a year out and you could do a staggered deposit of 10%.
Right.
Where you did like $10,000 on signing, and then within 30 days, another 10, within 45. And then you sort of built it up to what that would be over time.
Yeah.
I have a buyer that actually might work for that.
Well,
Good chat.
I'll get in contact with them when we leave.
So next, we wanted to dig into a big reason why people do choose to go new build, which other than the deposit structure, picking your finishes, the biggest and probably, in my opinion, the most valuable is if the builder is registered, the carry-on warranty. So for those of you who don't know what that is, it is a government-run, like mandated program that builders have structures to follow to protect you as the buyer. So there's 3 different, actually 4 technically, different stages of the carry-on warranty. The first one being pre-possession. So pre-possession, they cover you things like deposit protection, if there's closing delays, or there's sometimes a risk of the project not finishing. So the carry-on coverage will essentially protect you from receiving your deposits back in any of those situations. But again, you have to do your research and make sure that the builder is registered. Something we wanted to point out, because a big thing now is people are buying land and they're private building, but your private build is not covered under carry-on. So you would have to go and purchase that coverage separately. So it's doable, just not sort of automatically handed to you the way that a registered builder would be. And Sheldon Creek is covered, yes.
yeah, and if you're a builder in Ontario, you should have carry-on coverage. It is a mandatory thing. It really should only be owners who are that are building on their own that don't have carry-on coverage.
So after that, let's say you do take possession, then you have to make sure you follow by tight deadlines, paperwork, things like that, in order to keep your warranty valid. But there's 3 different phases to it after you take possession. The first one being a 1 year. And the 1 year generally covers for pretty much material defects. So you would do a walkthrough with a builder representative within 30 days of you taking possession of your property. And this is your opportunity to use lovely painter's tape, and you mark off any and all little defects that you wish for them to rectify. Of course, you have to be reasonable. But if for some reason something shifted and there was a gap in the flooring or whatever, I'm just kind of throwing something
Trim
out.
was missing, or
paint deficiencies, or
There's a few things. It can also be to cover unwarranted. I can't think of the word right now, but if it was basically supposed to be one thing and it ended up being
Substitution.
an unwanted substitution,
Not
stuff
that,
like that. Defects in the workmanship or in the materials is all covered. And the PDI that you're talking about, you could even do that before possession, so that the builder goes through with you and you have, because you are buying new, you should get a new home.
Right.
You should get perfect, clean, crisp, the way that you want it and expected it to be.
Right.
So that's your 1 year, and basically you get one shot within your 1 year to rectify all those issues.
One thing I did notice when we had our first time build, nail pops they didn't cover. So if your nails or your drywall screws are coming out of the thing from shifting over time, they don't cover that.
Really? I didn't know that.
And that's not a carry-on covered thing, but there is some great builders
Yeah.
Yes.
Wink, wink.
that will make
Yes.
sure that their buyers are happy. And you actually get 2 opportunities within the first year.
Okay.
In the last 30 days, you get another opportunity to make sure you've really covered it all
In the last 30
of the
days.
first year, yeah.
Interesting, okay,
Okay.
because I recently had a client, and I guess this is like a gray area, I won't go too deep into it, but they bought it resale within the 30 days. So somebody bought it as an investment and then sold it, and my people bought it. And again, we talk about great builders and just wanting to stand behind their work.
Yeah.
Like the screen door was ripped wide open when they took possession, and things like that. And the builder was like, no, absolutely not. We're not coming in. We're not fixing one more thing. You did your 30-day walkthrough. We're done.
Interesting.
So,
That might be like a Terry on warranty claim type of situation.
and that's where I directed them to, because I agree. Like, again, they're claiming that it's not transferable to the new owner. And I said, they went and registered to transfer the warranty because yes, it is transferable.
Yeah, the onus is on the purchaser, like you said,
Right.
but it is transferable.
But because the 30-day walkthrough was already done, they were like, no, we're not covering it. So to Katie's point,
Interesting.
some builders are just stand-up builders and really stand behind their work.
Yes.
Maybe some questions that you could ask to put down on your notes while you're doing this kind of research stage. Then we move on to the 2-year, which sort of becomes structural, electrical, HVAC, plumbing. So anything of those in that wheelhouse, essentially, they will come and rectify. But again, you have to follow by the timelines, make sure you write these dates down in your calendar, set notifications, because you have to notify them before the deadline of that 2-year.
Can I also insert here?
Of course.
For a general, for general people who aren't very well versed in a home or what the mechanics are and the HVAC and all of that, get in home inspection. And a lot of people don't realize this, but we just, my client just bought a house that's just past the 2-year Terry on. And when we went and did our home inspection for purchasing, we found out that the insulation was a little bit low. Now, had they actually done a home inspection, they would have caught that that was an issue and would have been able to get that filled up in that 2 years. It's still okay, but it wasn't as good as it should have been. So those are little things that you wouldn't think, like I wouldn't go in my attic and measure insulation. Nick would, but I wouldn't.
Well, I
So,
wonder too, I've seen new builds where like the, oh, I'm having a brain fart. Oh. Oh, no. You know, the doohickey, I'm sorry, I just went blank. I'm gonna sound like such an idiot.
Yeah.
The air exchanger, what is it?
HRV?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I had HVAC, the
Yeah.
HRV was like this rinky-dink apartment size one for a monstrous like 3,000 square foot home.
Oh.
So that's something to me, I would have been like,
Yeah.
let's get this rectified here. But
So yeah, definitely something to look into though. Get somebody who knows, or a contractor, or somebody that can come through and actually take a look and help you out with those and help you put green tape.
When you're doing your PDI, you can also bring somebody with you. Like, it's not a time for your kids and your mother and everybody to come and do a tour of the property. You can bring a designate with you that maybe understands those things a little bit better than you.
Yes.
So if you're curious, like, is this HRV system like suitable for the size of house? Like, even if you don't know and you're afraid to ask the builder, isn't a question you think to ask. If you have somebody that you trust to come with you, that's always an option.
That's a good point.
absolutely. So that's the 2-year. Again, 2-year was structural, electrical, plumbing, and HVAC, which is your heating, ventilation, air conditioning.
Good job on that acronym.
Acronym. We had to Google that word yesterday. I couldn't remember it. And then we move. There is a gap. So after your 2-year, there is a gap, but you're covered all the way up until 7 years on any major structural defects. So past the 2 years, the little things are your problem going forward because you're a homeowner now. That's just part of the way that it is. And you've had ample opportunity, guys. But 7 years, so roof, foundation, structural components of the house, you are covered for up to 7 years.
Take
And that's
advantage
that.
of that.
Absolutely. So if you see cracks in your foundation, if you have, your roof is already flying and peeling
Then
off.
those are also things like cracks. Little cracks they're not covering. They're covering big, gigantic, like I can
4
fit a
millimeter
chain
ones.
in there.
Yeah.
I mean,
They're pretty
hairline cracks are going to happen. We live in Canada. That's just the way it's going to be. You always also want to make sure that if you do have a crack from both sides, that's something that's cause for concern.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's Terry on for you. So you can obviously just Google Terry on warranty coverage in Canada, and the website gives you all of the information.
Their website is fantastic. It's very like user friendly.
Super.
I find. Yeah.
And their
Plain
YouTube
language.
channel as well.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Very informative.
Good
Awesome.
to know.
All right.
The last note was just the talking about customization of a house, and we really touched on that. So I think, is there anything else you would add for people? Like, what's your tips and tricks when they're coming in to pick something? Like, what's your one thing you want to tell your guys when they come in?
Well, I think everybody knows you can choose your finishes, which is a lovely part of buying a new build. But you can also ask for things that aren't necessarily just, we have tiles here and we have the luxury vinyl here to look at, to choose. But you can also do things like one of our purchasers closing this month opted to add a barbecue line to their deck. So you can do other things like that too. And again, if you have a great builder who's willing to work with you to make that property something that you want to live in long term and works best for you and your family, there's no harm in asking about those things that don't necessarily come with the home or aren't necessarily an optional finish, but would be best for you.
I've even heard of examples of like shifting walls back slightly, like depending on the phase of the, if it's totally
Exactly.
pre-construction, they haven't started framing yet, you can even customize some of those things too.
I did that to make my shower bigger.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
yeah,
how much room do we have one of those little toilet closets? And I'm like, how much room do I need in there? Let's make my shower bigger. So they
Bigger.
bumped that back like 2 feet.
yeah.
Yeah, you can even
Oh,
do
yeah.
like we've had purchasers come in too and say like, oh, what about this or what about this? What about this? And then we can look into those options for them and sort of give them the lay of the land. This is how much it would cost for the builder to do it. This is what it would cost for themselves to do it, because of course it would be more not having like a staff of people
Yeah.
that are there specifically dedicated to that project. And so having those options and knowing it's done right from the outset is always a nice thing about buying a new build too. We did have somebody purchase one of the other units and just didn't want a half wall in the kitchen. In one of the units they have a half wall in the kitchen. And so the builder looked into it and was able to rearrange the plumbing stacks and
Oh, awesome.
yeah, but that's something you
That's a big
don't
thing.
necessarily want to do yourself. You want to do it when the walls are open. You want
Yes,
to do it
that's
when
right.
it's the optimal time to do it.
Right.
Absolutely.
And a great thing too, and people don't realize, we talk about it being overwhelming, but in a fun way. Like they're coming at you going, here's a layout of your house. Where do you want your plugs? Where do you want your cable line?
Mhm.
Where do you want your,
Or even buildings now are
Lights,
putting like the
light
extra
switches.
stuff for the TVs and stuff, like
Yeah.
extra built-ins.
Mhm.
yeah, the
Behind the walls,
conduits and
yeah,
all
thank
that
you.
stuff. And obviously, if you get one of the units here, not all of them have basements, but some do. And if you get the builder to finish the basement, it's then also covered under the tear-on warranty.
Mhm.
Versus if you bring in a separate contractor,
After the fact.
it's not.
And you get all the same finishes.
That's right.
Yeah.
And like tip-top quality work, right?
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
Anything else from anyone?
Anything else you want to add? We didn't really
Anyone have
talk
any
about,
comments?
in general, some builders will offer incentives at different phases throughout the builds. They tend to be different. They tend to change regularly, kind of like buying a new car. 1 month it'll be this deal, 1 month it'll be the next. So just something that you can ask them as well, depending at where you are. They might have a really great incentive to buy now versus in a month from now.
Yeah.
But just a good question to ask.
But they might not know, like VW.
Right, yeah, they don't. I was shopping for cars. But yeah, they don't know what's coming in the future, but they may have something that works for you right now. So just a question to ask.
Always good to ask, for sure.
Did anybody on here have any questions?
I don't think
think
so.
so.
No, I scanned through.
Awesome. We were fast
We were
today.
very
I know,
fast
remember this
today.
Fast.
Anything from yourself that you want to add?
I don't think so. Thank you for having me, girls.
Oh,
Yeah,
thanks for
you're
letting
welcome.
us
It was
come
good.
in here.
This gives us
Great.
lots of time for
Oh,
a tour.
yes. Are we interested in a tour? Somebody comment.
Anybody want a tour of
Anybody?
this
Live
beautiful
tour
home?
of this beautiful model
I feel
home?
like we should
We're happy to take
move
you.
all our stuff before we do, because it's really not going to give them the full effect.
Perfect.
All right,
Well, we might not have
Should
time
I
for that.
Should I start going and move some things and you can entertain everybody?
Boy.
See how I did that?
Do we
mean,
want to
this
let
is
YouTube
fun.
go, or you still want to tour YouTube?
I think they can jump onto our Instagram if they want to see the rest. What do you think?
All right,
Yes.
YouTube. We're going to
Okay,
say goodbye to you.
YouTube live viewers.
Thanks for watching.
And all right.
All right, friends. Katie, do you want to